Hi guys, it's Kelly here. I'm super excited for this one. We are going to be making a handmade gift card note card set. So we're going to take a quick look at this. I'm going to show you how to do the packaging to build the box and the clear lid, as well as the cards inside, and then the tag and the wrapping on the outside. This is a great little gift for a friend or a hostess gift. And these ones in particular all match, the theme all match. It's a friendship theme with some pretty fruit. And we're going to be using stamps, stencils, and dies to create this. So I've been trying to use this one. Like, I made this video probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we've been traveling a lot. This is Picked with Love. This is created by my best friend, Dawn Wolfsagel. I love this set. I love that it has the stencils that go along with it. I think it makes it so much easier to use for everybody. And so I really, when I was looking at it, I was like, God, this would make such a good gift set. So I am working on Nina 80-pound solar white cardstock. I am going to stamp my lemons, my peach with the blueberries, and then the strawberries. I'm using Honeybee's No Line ink. This is going to give us a no line look at the end when we've done all of our stenciling, but it makes it so much easier to line everything up so that we know what we are stenciling. So I did stamp, you see the 3 here, but I actually stamped this twice. This is going to give us 5 cards, and then it is also going to give us our tag, a decoration for our tag. You could make as many as you want, but this I felt like was enough, 5 little friendship cards was enough of a gift. So I am using a sticky mat. This one in particular is the Clingy Craft Mate from Trinity, and I have trimmed down my pieces, you'll notice, and this is just to make it easier for my stencil to stick to my cling mat. This is sped up a little bit because we have a lot of ink blending ahead of us. So I just went through, I kind of lined them up. There are some areas where I had to mask, but I'll show you each version. So for this one, like I did the lemons, and you may notice that I am bringing in like a darker yellow tones, but I'm also going to bring in this brown. My brush is seasoned. Okay. It's well seasoned. So I didn't pick up any extra ink. I just used what was on there. If your brush is not seasoned, you can kind of pick up the ink and then kind of like rub it off a little bit, because we don't want brown lemons, obviously. But we do want to add just a little bit of depth. Dawn did build the stencils to add quite a bit of shadow. I just like to go in there and just add just a little bit more so that we have that more like depth and dimension in there. That's just a personal preference, but you can absolutely just use 1 or 2 colors and that would be fine. Here for the flower, I did the buds yellow, which I think is fine. And then I was going to do the flower white because that's typically what you see. And then I was like, no, I'll go back in and add some yellow. So if you want to do them white, I would absolutely recommend that shaded lilac. But otherwise you can just use like a light yellow. And then you'll notice that I did mask that flower there. So that way I, don't get any of the ink where I don't want it. For all of the colors, for all the colors, for all of the fruits, I used the same green. This is going to help set the tone for our consistency in our set. So we have the fruits, right? And then we have the friendship kind of theme for the sentiments. The greens will also carry through. I'll show you later on how that green can also be helpful in constructing the cards. But for now, I'm just kind of showing you the options. So here we're almost to the end with this one, and it has the detail layers with the leaves. I have one more kind of detail layer to do here with this leaf in the background. And then the lemons are done. I also did the lemons, but then I did, ta-da, limes. So it's the same one. I just switched up the colors. I did use the same greens that you saw for the leaves for the limes, and then I just incorporated slightly darker greens for the leaves on the limes. Then for the strawberries, I am going with this saltwater taffy for kind of like the inside of the strawberry. This one up front here is kind of cut open. And then I went in again with that saltwater taffy for the next layer, and they're buildable, right? The inks are buildable. So I'm able to use that same color to create a lighter version and then a darker version. For the actual like whole berries, I'm using some more kind of true reds and adding some shadows there. I'm adding shadows kind of where they're tucked behind that other strawberry. I just think these are so darling. I think she did such a great job with this. And I went out to, what is this, lumberjack plaid, but you could even go all the way out to like an aged mahogany for like a really rich red color. But since I had the base of that saltwater taffy, I didn't want to go too dark, but you absolutely could. So while we're doing our ink blending, I should say, just in case you're a person who's here and you're not here for the chatting, which I totally get, you might be here just to make the note card. The box is at the end. The box is around, I think, the 20-minute mark. So if that's what you're here for, to make the box, which I think the box is fantastic. And you could even use it, like you could use the box to do other things as well, not just, as a gift card set. But anywho, I have been so busy, like living life lately, like just with my regular life, that it's been a little crazy. So the next couple of days, you're going to see we're going to be cramming a lot of stuff in because it's stuff that I have had done. I just haven't had time to post it. Because at the beginning, so we had, the 4th of July, and that was a shortened work week, which I love the 4th of July and celebrating, so that's not a problem. And then that week following that, we went to the lake, and so that was a shortened work week. Then we came back from the lake. I hosted a whole fundraiser, and then after the fundraiser, we had a 3-day work week, and then we left for Tennessee. So now we're in the last week of July, but it's the only week that I'm going to get like a whole week of working in. So it has been a little bit wild. Let's go back to the card. So here, this has the peach and the blueberries. So in order to create some balance, I am using the same like purplish blues for the blueberries and the flowers in the top right corner. If you remember, I used my own set a few weeks ago, the Summer Smiles, the Camillas, and I played around with kind of like the peach tones to see what I liked better. And I was doing that because I knew I was going to make this one and I wanted to know what colors to do the peach. So we did a red peach and a pinky peach in the other one, and I ended up actually using them both here. So I used the pinky peach for like the inside flesh of the peach, and then I used the red peach for the fully intact peach. I will also, like we'll see this at the end, I completely missed the layer to add the dark part of the skin on the half of a peach. That is in there. I just missed it. I'll like look at it at the end and be like, that there should be something there. And then I'll go back and get it. Fortunately, stencils make it super easy to be able to do that. So anyway, so yeah, we've been doing a ton of kind of traveling, which normally, you guys know if you've been here for a while, I have severe travel anxiety. And it's been so much better. It's been so much better. I'm not even on like my regular anxiety medication anymore. It was making me sleep all day. So I've been off that for a couple of months because I was already feeling better. And now with the travel, like before, whatever it was, like 2 years ago, it was probably even longer than that, 2.5 years ago, like I would have to take a full pill to even get on the highway for any extended amount of time. And that's while I was on other anxiety medication. This trip, I have not been on other anxiety medication for almost 8 months now. And I was able to just take a half of a pill and I was fine for the full 7-hour drive to Tennessee. And I had no issues, and I'm so grateful because my anxiety was so bad, like driving wise, it was even hard for me to like drive down the street to pick up my child from daycare. So very, very, very grateful. Thank you, Lord, that it has gotten under control. But truly, if you are a woman in your 40s and your anxiety all of a sudden has gotten terribly out of control, get your thyroid checked. Because my thyroid, because I was diagnosed with the hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, your thyroid, when it's not working correctly, then your body cannot properly produce serotonin and dopamine, and that affects your anxiety. It creates anxiety where maybe there was none previously. Oh, here's where I'm going to go back and get that. See, doesn't that look so much better? And that is really what was creating such a hard time for me. And now that that is being treated, here we have the peach and the plum. I'm linking all of everything below. So that way you can see the different colors that I used. And you can always leave a question. I will respond in the comments, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or here on YouTube. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. So anyway, I cut these out. So, yeah, if you are all of a sudden experiencing wild anxiety, get your thyroid checked and see if that is the problem. All right, back to the card. So here, there's enough sentiments in this set that if I stamped all of them, which is what I did, I would have a sentiment for every single one of the cards I was making and the tag on the front. I'm using a warm gray ink to stamp these because I have a no-line look. You could go with black, but I felt like it might be a little bit too bold. So I decided to go with that kind of warm gray color, and then I stamped these all out. And again, because Honeybee does dies for all of their sentiments, even the sub-sentiments, they're nice and easy to find. For the card bases, I am cutting an 8.5 by 11 sheet just right in half, and then I am scoring at 4 1/4. So they are the full, so I'm cutting them to 5.5 by 8.5, and then I am scoring at 4 1/4. So I have also cut panels that are slightly smaller. These are 4 by 5 1/4. And then here's how you could bring in that green to keep all of your cards matching exactly. That green is a great color that you could use in the background because it matches all of them. This is Fern, I think, from Spellbinders. But see how they all match? I chose to do different colors for the backgrounds for the frame. And then I'm also going to add a little bit more color by just doing like a little vignette of this salty ocean. I feel like blue is a neutral. Not everybody does, but I do. Another good color for this would be like a speckled egg or something like that. It's just going to help bring the stenciling forward. So then once I have all of those panels with the blue ink blended on, I'm going to go through and use my bone folder to reinforce all of the folds on my card bases. I approach all of my like multiples, making cards as multiples. I do them in like the assembly line fashion. So I cut all my card bases, I fold all my card bases. I cut all my framed card panels. I ink blend all my frame card panels. So that's how I go about it. I find that to be the most efficient when I'm putting things together. So here, when I'm lining up the frame, like the card panel, the colored card panel, I always line it up with the fold because you can trim it on the outside edges. It's very difficult to trim it on the fold and have it line up. So once I have that down, then I'm going to put the ink blended piece down on top, make sure that it is even. I have an even mat around all of the edges. In this case, this one is green because it is for the limes. And then I will put the limes down. You could pop these up, but understand that makes it a little more challenging for your recipient to mail them. So I glued mine flat. You could also, like if you wanted to make this a full-blown gift, you could put like a little book of stamps in there too. That would be great. In order to blend these in and honestly help them look like a little more pop off the page, I did go in with a blue marker and just color in the white edge. For me, it was a B00. And then here's what we're looking at for our card set. I love them. The peach is my favorite. The plum is a second. And then I laid out all of my sentiments. I'm going to glue these again flat to make them nice and easy for my recipient to mail. I think as a card maker, these are such great gifts to give because we've all been caught in a situation where it was like, oh, it's so and so's birthday, and I completely forgot to grab a card. Not us as card makers, because obviously we have an overabundance. I'm not going to tell you how many cards I got on my bookshelf here. My wonderful sister sorts them by theme. But most people, like my mom used to call me and be like, oh, it's, so and so's birthday at the bowling alley, and I didn't have a chance to grab a card. Do you have one? Sure do. Yes, I do. But if you give these as a gift, then she would also have one. So I did add a little bit of glitter. You do need to be careful with, depending upon what ink you're using. I use distress inks, and they can be reactivated with water. So you want to make sure that you're not being too crazy with your glitter. I also added some white highlights to like my berries, my flowers, the seeds on the strawberries. Just to give them a little bit more personality and make them look a little bit different. When you have a stenciled image, everybody's looks the same. So I like to do what I can to kind of make mine stand out and look different than everybody else's. So then once I had that done, we're going to work on the tag. These are the Art Deco labels from Honeybee. They're not meant to be a tag, but I really love the shape of them. So I cut it out of craft cardstock and white cardstock. I also used the Lovely Layers tagged accessories to cut out the the hole reinforcer, and then I marked where I wanted it with a hole punch, punched that out, and then I laid down the other piece, marked it with a pencil on this craft portion, and then I can glue them together. You could write on the back and do like a little to from. I did not, because I would be hand delivering this gift that I would be giving them, so they would know who it was from. But you could always write a little note on the back. I'm going to put that reinforcer down, and I picked the craft because, first of all, it's a neutral. It's going to match the twine I'm going to wrap it in, but also it matches the sentiment. Then right on top, I put picked with love for a sweet friend. That was one of the sentiments that was there and is the actual matching counterpart for the name of the set, which I think is really cute. And it gave me a reason to use my extra strawberry. So then I will glue that down, and then we're going to get started making the box. So in order to make the box, you're going to need an 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock and an 8.5 by 11 piece of acetate. I'm using acetate from Spellbinders. Then from there, we are going to cut them down to their coordinating sizes. I will tell you that I did end up changing the box size for the bottom because it was too deep. So this one is 8.5 by 9 3/4. That's the size of the box. And then we're going to score it on every side at 2 inches. What I ended up doing to make mine slightly smaller was I took off an inch on each one. So I did it as 7 instead of 8 and 8 instead of 9. And then I scored at 1 inch all the way around to make it slightly smaller. Again, if you have questions about that, because math is hard, let me know in the comments, and I'll actually, maybe I'll pin a comment telling you what the actual size was. Then for the acetate, this is going to be a little bit wider, so it sits on top of the base of the box. And this one is 6 5/8 by 7 7/8. This one I did not have to change the size of because the box was still the same size. It was just less deep to fit less cards, because you'll see once we put it all together. And then the acetate, we're scoring at 1 inch all the way around. It was just too deep for the amount of cards I had. Now, if you were doing 10 cards instead of 5, the 2 inch mark would be fine. But it was not okay for what I was doing. They were really seated deep down in the box. So I did have to change it. So now once we have those, you're going to see that you have 4 perfect squares in the corners, and we're going to cut up just one side of the square. It doesn't matter what side, just keep it consistent. So I always kept it like the quote unquote top of the square, or the square that was on the right hand, or the line that was on the right hand side when I turned it. And you're only going to cut one of them. This is going to create flaps for us to be able to put them together. You're going to do the same thing with the acetate lid. Now, if you don't want to be able to see your cards inside the box, you don't have to do an acetate lid. You could do the same exact thing with a white cardstock and then decorate it however you would like. I thought it was really fun to have a clear lid and to be able to see all of the cards that were inside, especially since our tag is very matchy-matchy. So once we have those done, we're going to use our bone folder to just reinforce all of those folds. So we're going to go through and just fold them on top of themselves. Each one of the sides, we're going to fold, slide our bone folder across to reinforce it. And we're going to do this for our base. See how high the sides are? I should have known right here, but I didn't until I put them in. You guys may have noticed over the years, I am not an engineer, but putting the things, like, if I have a guide, once I put them together, we're all right. So then I'm going to do the same thing with the acetate. You do want to make sure that you have an acetate that is going to be strong enough that it's going to hold together. And like I said, I didn't have any issues with this one, and this one is from Spellbinders. So just went through, folded it over gently with my hands first, and then reinforced it with that bone folder, all of those. And then we're going to start adhering them together. Now, in order to adhere them, we are going to add adhesive to only the flaps. In this case, I'm using the double-sided adhesive from Altenew, and I am putting it, like I said, just on the flaps that we're going to adhere. You can see me putting it on the top here. I did go back around and put it on the bottom, as you'll see. So then I'm going to remove that. I am going to set up the side that has the adhesive, and then I'm going to press on the outside edge. So that way I can make sure that it's squared up, and I'm kind of leaning back in my chair looking at it straight on so that I can make sure the edge of the box is flush with that flap and everything is closing and it is nice and secure. So since I ended up keeping this one and not using it as a gift, I'll just use it on my desk to like throw odds and ends in, because there's always odds and ends on my desk. So then this is the last one, and again we'll push that together. You can see that it's well constructed, it's not going anywhere. Because with the acetate you'll be able to see the adhesive, I went with something a little bit more subtle. I used glue dots. These are actually sticky spots from Pear Blossom Press, but I used just one, and then I folded in the flap, and you'll be able to see here, like you can see the adhesive, but it's literally just one circle. It's not adhesive all over the place. It doesn't look messy. It still gives a pretty clean look and holds the top of the box together. So I was really happy with the way that those came out. They're meant to hold, what are they, like the snap and slides or snap and spins? So they're meant to, hold pretty well. They're a stronger adhesive. You could use maybe just a smaller piece of another adhesive if you don't have glue dots. So that's how the lid fits on, and the bottom of the box, that's how it's going to look. I'm going to put all of the things together. Honeybee does have their own envelopes, and now that I have the blue in the background, this sea glass would also be, it comes with 5 card panels and 5 envelopes. You could use those card panels as the background, and that would match as well. I'm just going to use the envelopes because they match with the blue, and I really like blue. Blue is my boyfriend. So then I fit them all in there, put the lid on, and then how I'm going to close it up is with some twine. So I'm using, this one has a couple of different lengths and widths. I'm using the thickest one and the thinnest one just because it's going to add a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to use one of those sticky spots on the back of the box. And I'm going to find the middle of my 2 lengths together. I'm going to push that in there and then almost like you're wrapping a gift. Flip it over, and then I'm gonna wrap it a second time, and then I will press these ones again into the sticky spot. You don't have to use the sticky spot. The knot will be enough to hold it, but the sticky spot is nice to keep it in, like, in line where you want it to be so that it looks nice, kind of thing. And then I'm going to tie this, and I chose to do mine just kind of off to the left-hand side. I'm going to feed the lengths of the twine through my tag, and then I'm going to tie it again. You could do a bow or, something like that. I'm just going to do a knot, just so that it holds it on there. And then I'm just going to trim off the extra. A bow felt like a little bit too much for my particular design because everything is pretty clean and simple, but it might not be too much for yours. So I just trimmed that off. And then here's where, see how much room we have in that box? So this is the smaller box. It's pretty close to the same size as the lid, but everything still fits nicely. The lid isn't touching the countertop or anything. It's not hanging over is what I should say. And then I was able to fit this right over. So let's go through and take a look. So this is how they would open it. They would just slide that right off because that sticky spot is just, holding it on. And then we can see that each card has its little envelope, its little blue envelope that matches. These are nice, kind of gender neutral. And then we can just stick them back in there. And then you can just wrap the twine back around. So I hope this inspires you to make your own hostess gifts, to make your own little note cards. I think they're really adorable. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.